I'm Levi Steele, and this is the Ordinary People Podcast. All right, y'all, welcome back to the podcast today. I'm joined by another guest. This is somebody that I just met, and I'm excited for y'all to hear this episode. And I think it's going to be one y'all enjoy. So today I'm joined by Miss Johnna Johnson. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we hop into it, let me just kind of give you a brief introduction.
Okay.
Just so people know what they're getting into here.
All right, so they can click off if they want to. Now's your chance.
Yeah, we warned you. No, this is going to be great. All right, Johnna is a physician assistant with over 21 years of experience serving patients right here in our area. She graduated magna cum laude, is that how you say it?
I think so.
Okay, from the University of Georgia, and went on to earn her Master of Medical Science from Emory University. She has spent her career working across internal medicine as well as orthopedic surgery and sports medicine, and she is a published author in a Journal of American Academy of Physicians Assistants. Impressive.
It's not. I had to do it to graduate.
Well, it sure does sound impressive.
I'm telling you.
It's a lot of work right there.
It's a lot of work. I will take credit for the work part.
I bet. More recently, Johnna has taken a bold step. She walked away from the traditional model and founded her own practice, Cornerstone Family Wellness, right there in Concord, Georgia, where she is the sole provider. She holds a certification in functional medicine and has built something really special with a focus on finding the root cause of what is going on with her patients, rather than just treating the symptoms. Outside of her work, she is wife of Kyle, the proud mom of 4 kids, and she will be the first to tell you that her life is anything but slow. She farms, she fishes, she runs, and she keeps her household running. Johnna has got a story and a perspective that I think is going to challenge the way you think about your health, your faith, and what it looks like to step out and do something different. And so, there she is. That is, wow, what an impressive biography there.
It's just my story. Everybody's got their story.
Yeah.
What the Lord's doing. It's been a fun life to live so far.
So what I kind of want to begin with is your career. From what I see there, it regardless of what you say, that's impressive. Yeah. That's a lot of work, especially Emory.
Yes, it's a lot of work.
So tell me, let's kind of step back farther and tell me what got you into doing this. What made you decide
into medicine?
Yeah, decide to go that route.
Yeah, the church I still go to the same church I grew up in, First Pres in Griffin, and so they were very diligent about taking kids on short-term mission trips. And so I guess it was the summer probably after my sophomore year, we went to Jamaica, and I worked at an infirmary there. And there was a little boy that was bedbound. He had cerebral palsy. It was pretty clear. And we were replacing the roof. And so in the lunch hour time, I would go get him out of his crib, take him outside just to get some fresh air. Because as you can imagine, it's pretty rough in there. And so I just kind of formed a little relationship with this little kid. I mean, I say a relationship. He was completely nonverbal and just severe mental retardation. But then it was at the end of the trip, I realized that he was my age. He was 16. And so that was just hugely impactful for me to just realize, I guess, the depth of human suffering that's out there. And so I love helping people. I love a good mystery to solve. So it was really married those two things of trying to help people and figure out what's wrong, how can we make it better. So it was on those mission trips that I had got the bug to be in medicine and saw it really as a tool to travel anywhere and continue mission work with that. So enjoyed those mission trips. It really kind of set that kind of career path for me.
And how old were you when you
16.
went on? Okay.
Yeah, my first mission trip I went on with the church, I was 12, and I went every summer. But that particular one, I was 16. And so I knew I wanted to do something in medicine. Thought I wanted to go to med school, did the whole MCAT, prepared to go, but knew I was getting married shortly after college, and I just had that whole struggle of do I want to be in school, that many more years, delay having a family that many more years? Because as equally passionate as I was about medicine, I wanted to stay home with my kids as much as I could. And it just didn't seem like being a great steward of my time, I guess, to be in school that long and work part-time. So my sister-in-law was a PA, and so I went to work and shadowed her, and just was like, this is exactly the perfect fit for me. So changed paths a little bit and pivoted, and applied to PA school, and been doing it for the past 21 years, I guess.
Wow, and you applied at UGA?
Yeah, so I graduated from Georgia in 2001 in August, got married in October of 2001, and then I took a year off to get some patient hours. PA school is kind of tricky to get into, and you have to have a certain amount of hours to get into hands-on patient care. So I worked for a year and got those hours and then applied, and then PA school is about 2.5 years, continual, through the summers. And so after that, then started working.
So describe to me, for those that don't know, what exactly a PA is.
What is a PA? So a PA is kind of in a group of what they would call a mid-level provider. And so we have the same, I would say, kind of the same classes as med students do. It's just an abbreviated version of it. So we have a year in school of doing the didactic work, the science behind it. Then we have a year of in clinics doing all of our rotations through the basic disciplines of primary care. And then it's a master's program, so we had to go back a year and do our thesis and write a research paper. And then so we work with collaborating physicians. And so this clinic I'm starting, I have a collaborating physician. And so there's a tremendous amount of freedom and independence, but we still work underneath their wings. And I'm a huge fan of that model. They are obviously the experts. They went to school longer. So they just have to be available by any sort of telecommunication should a question arise. And it's a safety net. I like the model. I'm a fan of it. So
what are you offering as a physician's assistant that, I guess, what can you not do that the doctor can do? Like, what's the difference there besides like going to school and what you provide?
Right. It probably depends. To answer it most specifically, it probably depends on the specialty. So in internal medicine, what I did for 12 years, there was really no difference in our daily routine. I can see a patient, I can diagnose, I can order the tests, I can prescribe medications, those kind of things. So the day-to-day routine was not very much, there was not much difference at all. In my years in orthopedic surgery, I couldn't take somebody to the operating room by myself and say, well, let me just replace your hip for you.
Gotcha.
So in that specialty, there was a greater difference. So in orthopedic surgery in the clinic, there wasn't a tremendous amount of difference in our routine. But in the OR, the surgeon is definitely the captain of the ship, and I'm the first assist. So that difference was much more exaggerated in that application, I guess.
So take me back to you graduating from UGA. What does magna cum laude mean? What does that mean? Never heard that before.
I made good grades. That's all it means. So it's just a distinction of graduating when you have a certain GPA. So I just worked hard.
What is that in comparison to like valedictorian or something like that?
Well, so obviously UGA is huge. So if they did have number one in the class, I know it wasn't me, but I don't think it's like that. They rank it based on GPA. And if you get above a certain GPA, I don't even remember what my GPA was, but it was good, and it came with that distinction.
Okay. So it was a high honor.
Yeah.
And so you spent 12 years in internal medicine and 9 in orthopedic surgery, like you said. What did all those years teach you?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's hard to not be taught by the patients. I mean, there's a lot that I'm trying to teach them in the room to help them understand what's going on with their body, what's needed, and why it's needed. But that's a two-way street from an education standpoint. They're teaching me a lot about them. They're teaching me about their lifestyle, and I may have a great recommendation, but if it doesn't work for them in their life, or their lifestyle, then it's no longer a great recommendation. So they teach me about them. They teach me about their stories. I say being in medicine is like a lazy man's evangelism because in a lot of other worlds or professions, you have to put in the work to build those relationships and earn that trust to be able to speak into people's lives. Well, in medicine, I mean, within 20 seconds, I'm like, hi, I'm Johnna. Nice to meet you. Tell me what's going on. And they're instantly diving into their story. And so there's not a lot of work that has to be done to get to those deeper levels to know people. And so it's a sacred relationship. I really feel like what happens in that room is holy ground. It's sacred ground in terms of people opening up into, sometimes it's just blood pressure and it's not more, but sometimes, there's stories and there's pain and there's hurt. There's defeat, there's discouragement. And so they're teaching me about them and their stories. And you can't help but grow in compassion and empathy when you do it for, as long as I've done it. You just hear a lot of people's pain, and you got an issue if you can walk away from that and not be changed by it.
See. So your patients really have to trust you then.
Yeah, if you don't trust your provider, you need to find another one, because they're opening up their deepest parts of themselves to you and to their story. Obviously, physically, you're dealing with all parts of them, but emotionally and spiritually as well. So it has to have a level of trust.
Do you believe there's bad doctors out there that don't care for their patients?
I'm sure there are. Thankfully, I've never worked for any of them. Yeah. So I'm sure if there's humans involved, there's sin involved. And if there's sin involved, there's different levels and depths of it. So I'm sure there are. I just hope nobody would say that ever about me.
Oh, I doubt it. So tell me about internal medicine. What does internal medicine mean?
It's adult medicine. So it's basically your general practitioner for adults. So during my time there, I did inpatient and outpatient. So, run-of-the-mill stuff, anything from a snotty nose to diagnosing someone with cancer, heart failure to strokes, those kind of things. So some of it had higher levels of acuity that we took care of in the hospital, and again, some of it was just normal run-of-the-mill checkups. So it's really just adult general medicine.
And where did you work at doing this?
Internal medicine in Griffin, when they used to be called that, and I worked with Dr. Kevin Napier there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
I loved it.
I worked with his son, David Napier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and David are
great.
Good friends.
Oh yeah, they're great people.
That? Such a small world. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it was a wonderful experience.
I've heard many good things about his dad. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, and it was so sad to leave. I mean, it was like ripping a Band-Aid off of just. It was such a great working relationship, a great place to work. But insurance had just sucked the fun out of primary care. And some of it was, I'll blame on insurance. But a lot of it was just where I was at that stage in life. I had 3 kids, ages 3 and under, and it was just chaos at home. I mean, it was just busy. And I took home a tremendous amount of paperwork that I would have to finish up behind the scenes. And it was just the wrong stage in life to have to do that. So the opportunity opened up to go to work with Dr. Hopkins in orthopedic surgery, where I just dealt with one problem, one issue, and it just simplified things tremendously.
So what is orthopedic surgery then?
Yeah, just bones and joints. So if you broke down when you came to see us. So we took care of fractures. We took care of arthritis, rotator cuff tears, knee replacements, hip replacements, knee scopes, broken bones, those kind of things. So we were kind of just the general catch-all for orthopedic stuff in this area.
What was your first job then coming out of school? Once you graduated Emory, I guess, where did you go first?
Right with Dr. Napier at internal medicine. Yeah. So I did some of my rotations with them, and we figured out really quick that we worked well together and really enjoyed him in the office. So he offered me a job right when I graduated, and I graduated, I think, in end of December and started January 5th, I think.
And what year was this?
I think it started 2005, January of 2005.
Okay.
So a couple years ago.
Yeah, that year I was born.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks a lot. I may have delivered you in my rotations.
So I'm not very like medical oriented. Like I don't know a lot about this, and so again, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this whole world and understanding it for myself, but also when I'm a parent one day, understanding it for my own kids and,
Yeah.
and what's going to be the best for them. You can cover with your degree or whatever. You can cover internal medicine and then orthopedic surgery. Like it covers all of that.
Yeah.
It's not like a specialty or something.
Right, right. So that's one of the things that drew me to PA school is the ability to pivot. So we have to sit and take our boards. It used to be every, I think, 5 years. It's now, I think, every 9, maybe 9 or 10 years. And that those board exams cover all of the disciplines. So if you, and that's important because if you see a PA in orthopedic surgery, that PA still has to take an exam and sit for the boards every, so many years on OBGYN, pediatrics, general surgery, internal medicine, all of those things. So when you see a PA, we have to maintain a certain knowledge of being cross-trained across all the disciplines. Now, obviously, the thing you spend the most time in is what you're probably the most proficient and the best in. But any PA you see has to pass their boards routinely and has to pass them on all disciplines. So I always say we're a jack of all trades. So I hope that kind of sheds some light.
Absolutely. That's cool. You can do a lot of different stuff with
Yeah, you can pivot. You can pivot. Yep. So, right now with Cornerstone, it's family practice. So it's going back to my roots of primary care and treating children as well. And so even though, I've been in orthopedic surgery in the past 9 years, I have still had to maintain CME or continuing medical education and sit for my boards across all those same disciplines. So it's not like I haven't seen those things or thought about them in that long. We have to stay up to date with all
just
that.
kind of like a refresher, like in a lot of, I know for contractors, they have to take a test or classes every year just to kind of stay up to date with stuff. Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So there's some confidence you should have if you see a PA that they have maintained a certain level of competency across all disciplines.
And now, is that just for PAs or is that for like doctors too? Or?
So no, the doctors always say PAs are jack of all trades. The doctors are the expert of theirs. So if you have a internal medicine guy that wants to become a cardiologist, he has to go back and do a fellowship. So there's extra training that has to be done.
Because they specialize.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. You're also a published author in the Journal of the American Academy of Physicians Assistants. Tell me a little bit about that.
That's called, I had to write a research paper for my thesis, and if I was going to write it, I submitted it. So if I was going to do all the work, I wanted to at least see if it was helpful. So I submitted it to our national PA publication, and it got published that year I wrote it.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, I got my whole bill $200 check for it.
It's incredible.
But it's, you put all that work into something and you want to share it, and if it was helpful to somebody, great. If not, no problem. I had to do it anyway for school.
What was your research paper on?
Well, at the time, it was on the current treatment of a condition called chronic atrial fibrillation. And so it's just where the heart quivers. It was what the current recommendations for treatment were at that time. Now they're all old recommendations because it was a long time ago. But it was current news at the time.
What causes something like that?
Atrial fibrillation? Well, it's kind of the same causes that's in the whole bucket of things that cause heart disease: smoking, hypertension, diabetes, too much caffeine, poor overall health can really make your natural pacemaker pucker out, and you get an area of the heart that just short circuits and can override your natural pacemaker. So, and it can cause this arrhythmia that can eventually lead to a stroke, which is the big deal about it.
Right. So a lot of times the fix for that is the pacemaker then.
Sometimes, yeah, if you can't control it with medication.
Okay, so first you would go to medication, and then I know my great grandfather had a pacemaker put in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you go
And when
that
you have a
route.
pacemaker, they basically just burn your natural pacemaker and just say, well, here's your new one. And it just overrides it.
Wow,
Yeah. It's amazing what we can do with the machine. It's really
it's so
cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
They're putting chips in brains, trying to help people walk nowadays.
I know. It's
They're
fascinating.
using robotics to help people who are missing limbs. It's really incredible.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons that drew me to medicine, kind of circling back around to that, is it's a bottomless pit of knowledge. Like you're never going to master it. You know, I mean, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and that's I'm always drawn to things like that. That you can spend your whole life learning and studying, and you're scratching the surface at best. So it keeps it interesting.
The body's fascinating.
Yeah, it's an amazing machine that the Lord made.
It's incredible to me how people can study it all day, every day, for years, for their whole life, and still we're learning something new about
Oh
it
yeah.
every day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you want to be humbled, look at an old medical journal or what they thought even several hundred years ago. And you look at that as so rudimentary, but you have to hold that with an open hand that what people would see that we understand now, a couple hundred years from now, if the Lord hasn't come back by then, we're going to look back and say that was so basic and so obvious. So it's, it's endless what can be learned. And it's humbling, really, at how intricate it is.
The direction you see modern medicine heading right now, do you like it, or are you not a fan?
Not really a fan. Not a fan. It seems as though businessmen have kind of taken over medicine and they're running it like businesses. And you just see bigger corporations, hospital-based models swallowing up what used to be the family practice doc. It's not all bad. You know, I'm sure there's some good things that could come from that. But from my perspective, it just seems to depersonalize it. It's very hard to even call and get a human on the phone. You get put through some sort of long routing service with a computer. I think it's gotten way more expensive. I mean, that's obvious. Everybody knows that that's gotten much more expensive. It's harder to get in. And so I just don't love the trend.
And do you feel like people are getting sicker?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think, and I don't think that's necessarily medicine's fault. I think that's
Lifestyle.
our own fault for lifestyle. You know, I think we have a health care crisis, but before we have a health care crisis, we have a health crisis. And I think it's our food. I think it's what we put in our body. I think it's sedentary lifestyles. I think it's staying glued to phones all day, having them by your head at night while you're sleeping there with it. You know, I just think we're bombarded with a total toxic burden that's just overwhelming what we can handle. And we're not helping ourselves out very much with how we're handling it in terms of our diet and our lifestyle. And so we have a tremendously unhealthy population. It's not trending for the better. And it's just going to overwhelm the system at some point.
What do you think the solution is?
Well, the ultimate solution is for the Lord to come back, and then I'm ultimately out of a job because, you know, all of this goes away. But practically for the here and now, I think we got to clean up our food. We have to get moving. We have to start doing things by hand more. We have to walk. And just go back to clean eating. You know, stick to the four walls of the grocery store. You know, you've got your fruits and vegetables, you've got your meats and cheeses, and you've got your dairy. And it's the inside aisles of all the ultra-processed foods that are loaded up with preservatives and color and high fructose corn syrup and all of this stuff that's really just poison for us. I mean, there's at some point, you know, the body can only handle filtering, you know, so much stuff. So I just think it's a matter of going back to the basics, move and eat well.
But even with that on the four walls as you're describing, there still can be so many problems with that. And
it's true.
Meat has these antibiotics they pump into it, whether it's chicken, beef,
That's true.
pork, whatever. And
Yeah.
then even if you want to even get real specific, the microplastics and the foam
Yeah.
and the plastic they wrap it in.
Yeah.
So for me, someone that strives to eat healthier
Right.
and be healthier, it just
Right.
feels like a bottomless pit that I can never get there. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So support your local farmers market.
Yeah.
There's one in downtown Zebulon. I mean, joking, not joking. I mean, buy fresh as much as possible, and plant your own garden. Plant your own garden. You can't. You have to be realistic. You can't grow every single thing that you need, but it's making wiser choices with what we buy. I mean, our grocery bill is large. I mean, we have a large family, but it's a large chunk of what we spend our money on because I try and buy organic as much as possible. We grow our own meat. We grow as much of our own vegetables as we can. And I know that's not realistic for everybody who either doesn't have the space or the desire to. But I think even if you're not eating the cleanest of clean options, you do yourself way better eating just fruits and vegetables and meats and dairy and those things. And it's the Takis, it's the fruit roll-ups, it's the Lucky Charms. I mean, that junk, is not good for us.
No nutritional value.
No. It's just bloaters.
Do you think what RFK and the Trump administration are doing with some of this food, trying to clean up our food, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, or do you like the direction that it's heading?
Oh, yes. I'm a big fan. It's a breath of fresh air because everybody knew it. Everybody knew, this stuff is not good for us. And just nobody has had the guts to take on, the industries that basically tell everybody, cover your eyes, plug your ears, and eat it. So, I mean, I'm always a fan for people that are brave enough to stand up and call it like it is. So in any facet of life, but that's what he's doing with this.
Well, our food didn't always used to be this way.
That's right.
What was that shift, do you think, that caused it to change more into real food to the junk we have now?
Well, I may be wading in waters I'm not as educated about, but I guess my personal opinion is convenience. Convenience, people stopped being home as much as they were. They started eating on the go, so then you got fast food, or you just want to grab a pack of something and throw it in the car. We've just gotten in a really big hurry, and there's been a lot of stuff that's been sacrificed. Food quality, family time. I mean, there's more things that have gotten sacrificed by our speed of life.
Some people would say you have to adapt or die, but often the adaptation is killing you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, this adaptation is likely killing us.
At some point, something shifted for you. Tell me about when you first started learning about functional medicine, and what was that shift?
So my mom got diagnosed with cancer in, 2014. And I remember going with her to her first oncologist appointment, and he was the local he was the guy that knew everything about what type of cancer we thought she had in Atlanta. And I remember sitting across the table from him and him telling her, it doesn't matter what you eat whatever you want. And I remember thinking, well, that's odd. I mean, it has to have something, it may not have caused it, but it has to help somewhat with what you eat. And so I remember that being kind of a pause moment of like, I don't know if I think all that's true. I mean, we don't have to go on the far end of the spectrum of, going nuts with it, but certainly diet can support this. What she was fixing to go through with her treatments. The other thing was I got very, very sick from a tick bite in 2015, and developed something called ehrlichiosis, and ended up losing a baby from being sick. We live in middle Georgia. We live on a farm. I was out in the woods putting up fence posts, and evidently had gotten a tick bite and was pregnant and got very sick from it. And I lost the baby. The baby got the bacteria as well. Ended up losing the baby, having to deliver it. And then I was just sick for about 2 years after that. I didn't feel right. I had developed stomach ulcer. I had some cardiac issues where my heart rate was getting crazy. I'm a runner. I was running 7 miles without any issue before that. And then I couldn't run across the yard afterwards. And so went through, I was diagnosing myself on what I thought was an issue and went through kind of the normal channels and had a tremendous amount of testing done. And at the end of the day, they're like, it's just stress. So I'm like, that's code for, we don't know what's wrong with you. And I get it. I mean, nothing was popping up other than, my heart rate was getting out of control at times. And so, but I wasn't feeling panicky. I wasn't feeling anxious. I mean, I was sad. I was mourning the loss of that child, but I knew it was something different. And so I just kind of went down a more holistic treatment path because I was really at my rope's end of what's going to get me better. And within about 2 months, everything went away. And so for me, it was, I think, recognizing that as much as we know, there's a lot that we don't know, and realizing that some of kind of more natural supplements have been around for thousands of years. And it was in a call to me of like, I know very little about it at all. And so again, that was like another kind of link in the chain. What I knew was a kind of a bad recommendation to my mom on top of, for myself, realizing it was alternative treatments that got me out of the ditch. And then, I think COVID really opened my eyes a lot to the, how do I word this? Kind of the intermingling between politics, money, and medicine. And, I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, and I try to tend to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But I think when you saw people from government positions shoving stuff down people's throats, what lost me was the shoving the vaccine on the kids. Like, they were not getting sick. They were not dying from this. And it became very obvious that there was a talking point and a mantra that was going to be followed no matter what the science was, no matter what anybody else was coming forward and saying, hey, this seems to be working. And they shut all those people down. It really made me step back and think, oh my gosh, like, these people in these institutions who we would have looked to as our go-to for recommendations, they are being bought off and they are compromised in terms of being truth tellers. And even if I knew I probably would have a different worldview than them, even if I knew I probably would have voted different than them, I thought there was enough of a love for science where there was some desire to seek truth and give good and sound recommendations. But to me, in COVID, it just really kind of pulled the mask off. This is really about control and power and money. And it really was a time for me where I kind of questioned, well, where do I get my information? Do you still trust the CDC? Do you still trust NIH studies? I mean, this is where we would go. And so I just thought, I need to do my own research. And so I went and studied and did some different research about different places that would offer kind of more holistic treatment, and found some programs that I liked online and finished that certification just to try and to realize, like, I've got to get this information myself from somewhere else. And patients knew that too. I mean, patients were coming into the room and telling me about all these supplements they were taking and asking me what my opinion was on different things. And I didn't know. I mean, I went to Emory. I graduated, from Emory. I was, top of my class there, and I knew what I knew, but we weren't taught this stuff. And none of the other doctors that I was eating lunch with, when I would ask them about, what do you think about functional medicine? Their answer to me was, what is that? And so we're just not trained in these more holistic ways. And so I just knew I had to break out of the mold and just go get that education on my own, because I didn't get it. And I knew it wasn't coming down the tubes through the typical channels that we got information. So those were kind of the different links in the chain that kind of led me there.
Do you think modern medicine is dangerous?
It can be. It's like any medicine is like a sharp kitchen knife. Used in the right way, it does a lot of good. And used in a bad way, it can hurt people. So certainly it can be. But it gave my mom 10 and a half years with us that I'm certain she wouldn't have had she not gone through that. So I'm not I guess, a purist on either end of the spectrum. There's absolutely a time and a place for conventional medicine, and it's needed, certainly in acute situations. But I think there's also a time and place for more holistic lifestyle treatments, supplements, nutritional supplements, food as medicine for those chronic diseases. That's why when someone starts taking one pill, they end up on 4, 5, 6, because they combat the side effects of that one. So there's a role for both disciplines, conventional medicine and functional medicine. And I have found that either end of the spectrum discredits the other. So you get your conventional guys, they don't even know what functional medicine is. And then you get your functional medicine people that think every prescription is of the devil and everything is going to hurt you. And I don't think that's the case. And so I find myself kind of in this middle ground of there's room for both. What's the most appropriate application? And it's patient by patient.
I think a lot of people lost trust in our institutions through COVID. I know
Sure.
I certainly did.
Sure.
I don't know. Like, I don't believe now what the CDC says.
Right.
I don't care if it's FDA approved.
Right.
That means nothing to me because everything is profit over people now.
Right. And that's hard for us because I always defend the boots on the ground. It's not your nurses, your PAs, your doctors that I think are the bad guys in this. We can't be an expert on every single thing. We can't read every single study that comes out and stay up to date. So what do? You go to your sources and you look at those recommendations from the American Heart Association, the CDC, and those things that we used to trust. And then to your point, now what do you trust? Because they were shoving bad science down our throat. And everybody, whether you had a degree in science or not, or whether you were in medicine or not, knew it. So where do you go to get your information now? And it's a little bit of the Wild West on who you trust, honestly.
It's hard for me to even trust doctors now, and that's not a knock on you or anyone. It's just, I think COVID put such a bad taste in my mouth. And a lot of them, it was not their fault. It was something being pushed on them.
Right.
Do this or you lose your job.
Right.
And they had a decision to make. Am I going to feed my family?
Yeah.
Or am I going to have to go live with my parents or be homeless?
Right. Right. Oh, in terms of like pushing the vaccine?
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, we had to deal with the same thing. And whenever you get to a point where you start shoving stuff down people's throat and say, you have to do this, you lose me. I don't care how great of a recommendation is. There's something to individual freedom. I can recommend something. I can suggest something. I can tell you what the consequences I think will be if you don't. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. People, when you start losing autonomy to decide what's best for you, you start losing, at least me, you start losing my trust in the whole system. So, it was just multiple things that just, you had to be intellectually honest enough to be like, this doesn't smell right. And then you start kind of questioning all of these bigger national organizations and saying, so for example, the American Heart Association, if they make a recommendation that your cholesterol has to be below a certain amount, is that really true? Or is that a recommendation from the drug companies that want you to buy cholesterol medicine because they put recommendations so low it's unattainable without medicine? I think that's the things that I would question now that I wouldn't have questioned 10 years ago. And I think there's good reason to question those things.
And that's why I've lost a lot of faith in every institution, from medical to media to political. Mm-hmm. I don't believe anything is shouldn't say anything, but I don't believe a majority of it is for the common good of the American people. Yeah. It's for the profit of the people at the top.
Yeah. I don't disagree. That's why I broke the mold. And that's why I'm not even taking insurance in my clinic. And I know that's probably disappointing to some people, but Even with the insurance companies, you have to jump through their hoops, fill out their forms, check their boxes in order to get paid. And not all recommendations are best for people. If you have a lady that's older that says, I don't want to get a mammogram, you get dinged for that. But she doesn't want a mammogram. She doesn't have to have one. I can tell her I think she should. I can tell her you might miss a breast cancer early, and you may have to catch it later in its course, and it may make a difference in your mortality rate. And she may say, I know, I don't want to do it. Then she doesn't do it. And so I just don't ever want my recommendations to be tied to my income, to where that's where you start getting tainted. That's where you start recommending something because you need to do it to check the box in order to get paid. And I just have no desire to jump through those hoops. I've seen it long enough. I don't want to do it anymore.
Did you take the vaccine?
I did. I took the first 2. I did not get any boosters. A couple of reasons. So I got it at the very beginning, like in December, whatever that December was, when they were first rolling it out, because I had to go in and provide some emergency care to the Griffin Hospital because, at the beginning there were a lot of folks getting very sick and they were getting overrun, and we were trying to kind of preserve which doctors were coming in and getting exposed so it didn't spread to other patients. And so they basically said, if you're on staff, please come and volunteer to try and get ahead of this because it was getting overrun. And so we had to do that. And my mom had cancer at the time, and she was, very sick. So yes, I did. Now, was I excited about it? No. Nobody ever wants to, don't ever love the thought of putting something foreign in my body. But again, at the time, I made the best decision I knew to make with the wisdom that I thought I had at the time. And at the end of the day, I have a very high view of God's sovereignty over my life and his plan for my life. And I did not feel like my decision, whether it was yay or nay, was going to thwart that plan. So I exercised what I thought was the best wisdom and judgment call to make. I held my nose, I got it, and I thought, well, it's not going to frustrate his eternal plans for my life. And then I rolled on with it. So never had any trouble with it. But when they started rolling out the boosters and no,
I mean, hindsight is 20/20, and I think a lot of people would have done stuff differently. But at the same time, one, a lot was misinformation. 2, we just didn't know.
We just don't know. We didn't know.
And 3, a lot of people, they had to get it, like we said. You get it or you lose your job.
Yeah.
And so I think, do you think that a lot of the boosters were more of a money gimmick?
Yes. Because viruses mutate. So, it was going to be like the flu shot. And that's what it's proving to be. Like you got to get a booster every 6 months or so. And, I just don't think, unless you have comorbidities that warrant that, and I still don't even know if I would recommend the booster for anyone right now. I mean, I just think that it proved to have a lot of side effects of blood clots and other things. And, I don't want to be making recommendations here because I don't know anybody's, individual story. But yes, I think it was at that point, the veil had been removed and it was obvious it was a complete moneymaker at that point.
Why do you think the country became divided between a vaccinated side and an unvaccinated side?
Well, in a spirit of trying to be generous, I think you're going to have crazies on either end of the spectrum. Okay, so that's the case. But I think probably the vast majority of people that continue to recommend boosters and vaccines probably looked at it as do what's best for your brother, and if this helps prevent the spread. I think there was probably a tremendous amount of an altruistic attitude of this is what's best for my neighbor, so I'll do this for them. And I get that, and I can appreciate that. I think then you got the other kind of rebel spirit of like, you're not going to make me do something I don't want to do. And, I think it's probably divided in terms of personalities. And and whether it divided along the political lines or not, I don't know. I just don't think. I think the ends of the spectrum are always going to be crazy, and they're always going to be the ones with the megaphone. I think the vast majority of people had no clue what to do. They just made the best decision they knew to make.
I agree.
They just didn't want everybody on their back about it. I mean, you shouldn't be shamed if you got it. And it goes both ways. I mean, there's folks that act like you were a baby, that you were fearful, faith over fear. Like, there's so many people that dogged people that got it and acted like they were fearful and less than for getting it. And it went the other way too. There's a lot of people that shamed people that didn't get it. And so I think there was probably something that the country could learn of just being gracious to people, just doing the best they knew to do at the time. And everybody's home circumstances are different. You don't know what home people's kids had horrible asthma and they were afraid they would have, no one knew. We had never seen this before. We had no idea. And everybody can think of somebody that got it, that probably passed away, that are shocked that they died from it. And it was scary. It was scary and it was unknown. But what happens when the unknowns become known? Did recommendations change? And that's where I guess these organizations lost me, is when they never altered recommendations based on more information. They just kept saying the same thing over and over and over. So at the beginning, I think there was a massive amount of grace to be doled out on both sides. As it went on, it was harder to extend grace when it started feeling more pushed.
The flu shot, are you a fan of it or no?
If you need it, yes. I never get it, and I never give it to my kids. We don't have asthma. We're not fragile medically, so I don't. But for those that are fragile medically and share a home with someone that is, then yeah, it's a great thing if you need it. But I just think less is best. Less is best.
How much do you let your personal view on different things within the medical field dictate your decisions for yourself and your family?
So, in terms of like getting flu shots and those kind of things for like my family. So obviously our personal preferences dictate how my husband and I, how we kind of handle things in our home. But I don't separate that completely from my patients, because they're coming to me, like, what do I think? How would I handle? And I tell them like what I would do. And I would, and most of the time it goes along with the recommendations, but sometimes there's some things like, for example, the booster. I'm like, if you want it, we can do it. I don't think it's a huge deal, but I don't think it's necessary. So I share with them how I feel on how we treat our family.
Was there a specific moment? I know you mentioned COVID, specific moment or individual that really made you say, okay, I need to do something about this. This functional medicine, hey, maybe there's something to it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do something about it.
I don't think it was one particular moment. Those links in the chain I talked about certainly pushed me towards that. But I think it was just this growing awareness that patients were more educated than I was with more holistic treatment options, because they were asking me, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't have to be the smartest person in the exam room, but I need to be the most informed. And it was that realization of the population, for whatever reason, whether it's the ones we've talked about, or other sociological reasons, are shifting away from, or a lot of people I was seeing were shifting away from prescription medicines and wanting, more supplements and natural kind of treatment options. And I just didn't know about them. And they're coming to me and asking me what I think about it. And I felt like to be a good PA, it was my duty to be educated on those things. Whether I decided to incorporate all of them, some of them, or none of them, I needed to be able to give them an answer. And going back to your comment about, you don't trust if anything's FDA approved, none of the supplements are.
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, are FDA approved. And it's like, get on board. Americans are taking these things. Quit sticking your head in the sand like you're not going to run these tests or look at this stuff. because people are taking these things. And so it was that realization of, regardless of what the FDA approves or doesn't approve, patients are taking these things. Patients are teaching themselves about this stuff, which is an excellent, be educated. But where are they getting their education from? Is it crazy mom blogs? I didn't know where they were getting information from, because it's not coming out from, medical sources a lot of times. And do you even trust those? So I just felt like I needed to be grounded in that. Again, I keep saying I didn't have to be the smartest person in the room, but I needed to be the most informed. And it was very obvious that I was just lacking knowledge in a huge area.
Does the FDA charge a fee to have their a company's supplements approved by them?
Oh, I don't know. I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
The government charges you a fee just to get a car tag. So I would imagine something like that. I would imagine that would be the case. I do know that in some degree of fairness, there's a tremendous amount of testing that has to go on to get FDA approval. And testing is expensive. And who's going to pay for those things? It's, rosemary farmers, if you want to look at the effects of rosemary on something, and that's why big money behind things is not a bad thing if it's done with integrity and really trying to find the truth. Big money behind things is a problem when it's pushing stuff no matter what the truth shows. That's the problem. You have to have money to fund these studies. It's just the only people that seem to have the money to fund them are the ones that are the drug companies, and they're going to promote their drugs.
I see an oversaturation today in the supplement market and the, I guess, organic this, non-GMO this, whatever. I see an oversaturation and more holistic approaches.
Right.
Do you think a lot of that is snake oil, or do you think it's real stuff?
Yes and yes. That it would be nice if the FDA entered into the space and did it well in terms of calling for accountability on what's in some of this stuff. Because to be fair, you don't know what you're getting. You can take something that says, 500 units of vitamin D or 5,000 units of vitamin D. Is it? I don't know. They're not being held to the standard of what the FDA says. So it's a little bit of the Wild West. I'm sure you've got some stuff out there that's junk, that's, not what it says it is. But it's important to find those companies that are legitimate companies that offer and open themselves up to third-party testing that can prove that what they say that's in there is in there, and they get it from responsibly sourced places. And it would be nice if they could enter in, and very rarely would you ever hear me say it would be nice if they can add more regulation, but it's a little bit of the Wild West, and patients, are getting, hurt at worst or ripped off at best by some of the, I guess the cheaper branded stuff. There's even a problem, like if you buy something on Amazon and you think it's this company stuff, it's not really what's in the bottle. You have to get it from the direct, the direct manufacturer. So it could use some taming to your point. It's oversaturated.
How is this even legal then?
Good question, because it's not regulated. How do they prove that? They got to enter in, they got to test this, and they've got to do those qualification testing to make sure things are what they are.
So they force a lot of us to take a vaccine, but they don't care what type of supplements we take.
Yeah.
Make that make sense.
I can't. I can't.
So I know another issue with a lot of supplements too is ingredients. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies will say they use this ingredient when they really don't, but they make a cheap product look expensive by labeling or whatever it says on the packaging.
Right. And that's what, we're talking about. The dangers of, are you getting what you're getting? And so there are good legitimate companies out there that I think are very reputable. I would say don't order anything online off of Amazon or something like that. Go to your local pharmacy, because your pharmacists are the ones that are doing the research, and they should know which ones are legitimate companies. They're buying straight from the manufacturer. They're stocking them on their shelves. So, I'm always a fan of the mom and pops. So, go to the mom and pop pharmacies and ask them. Your pharmacist would be well informed on that stuff.
Let's go back to Cornerstone Family Wellness. Your primary, what is it? What would the facility be called?
Cornerstone Family Wellness. It's a family practice that we're starting in May 4th. Will be the first day of seeing patients, but it's in downtown Concord.
Okay.
So it's just my hope is that it's high quality care with a smaller, what you remember as your old little family doc care of being personalized, being known when you walk in, getting a human on the other end of the phone, having longer appointments, not being rushed, feeling heard, and knowing that someone is looking at all options as treatment, so not just prescription medicines. And really my passion is trying my best to figure out where things come from. So it's one thing to diagnose somebody with lupus. I mean, I can do that. That's straightforward, how to diagnose that for the most part. But that deeper layer question of, well, why did they get this? That's just, we just were not equipped to answer that in conventional medicine. And so the hope is that the deeper testing, the more comprehensive questioning, we can find out, was there something, whether it's a nutritional deficiency, whether it's a genetic issue, whether it's an environmental exposure, where did this come from, and address something at the root of it instead of just throwing medicine at you to tell your immune system to calm down. Your immune system's doing what it's supposed to do. For the most part, it's reacting to something that it doesn't like. And the question is what's that trigger? So we may not be able to answer that for everybody, but we're going to give it our best shots to, again, go that one layer deeper and see where did these things come from.
You talked a little bit about your journey into kind of diving into researching functional medicine. What caused you to take that extra step, that step of faith, and start your own practice? And what did that look like?
Well, very practically, the doctor I was working for retired. So I knew I had to do something different. And so when Dr. Hopkins retired, at that point, I was on a little bit of a launch pad to pivot. And so it was a lot of prayer and kind of introspection of what do I want to do next? I'm in my mid-40s, and the thought of bouncing around, if I could find somebody that was still in private practice and not in a corporate machine, that would be great. And, but most of those guys are older, and, I'm just would be riding that same ride of he's going to retire in 5 or 6 years and we'll have to do something different. So I think there was a kind of being on a launch pad and a realization that I just wanted to break free from the corporate machine. And then very practically speaking, my youngest has some special needs. And so, unless there's something that I'm just not seeing, I don't think she'll ever be fully independent. And so knowing that I was either going to have to retire when she ages out of school and be home with her, or create an environment where I could fold her in and give her some sort of meaningful employment, but still have her under my wing, it just made sense to start my own thing.
And you said that it'll open May 5th.
May 4th will be the first day seeing patients. Yeah.
Okay. And you're the sole provider there?
Yeah. So Dr. Trevor Biles is a family practice physician in Griffin. He bought Dr. Biddle's old practice. And so he's my collaborating physician. And so he'll continue to run his office in Griffin, and I'll run the office in Concord.
Okay. So you have to have a doctor that's over a practice. But you can still run it through him.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So legally through the state, I work under his license. I have my own license, but I work in collaboration with him. But I can be the sole provider in Concord. And he and I would just touch base if there were any questions that came up.
What have been some challenges for you in beginning this new endeavor?
Well, all of it's been a challenge because the medicine part, I know the business part is all been new to me. So it's been a steep learning curve of trying to figure out what I need to do. I don't know, if you see me in the Chick-fil-A drive-through, you'll know it didn't pan out. But I think I have, I think we're on track with everything that we need to do. But anytime you learn something new, or in your business you pivot and get grow in a different aspect of it, it's always challenging learning the business part of it. But I'm learning it. I'm doing it.
Tell me what would be your ultimate goal with this new practice?
Well, there's multi-layers to it. My hope at max capacity that it would be 2 full-time providers. That's as big as it has room for, and that's as big as I want it to be. My hope would be if there's another, whether it's a young lady or whether it's a guy, to be able to provide a place that would give them excellent work-life balance. Working with Kevin Napier and working with Dr. Hopkins, they have been so gracious to me and have given me all the space I needed to be able to raise my family and work and juggle that balance. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but they have given me every ounce of room I needed to do those well, to the way I wanted to do both of those. And so I know how much that has meant to me personally. And so I would love to be able to provide that for other young folks that are juggling, not feeling like it's all or the other, that I have to either, work full time and neglect my family, or, neglect my work or not work at all and stay home. I just want them to be able to have a space where they can do both successfully. And so that's one layer that I hope that Cornerstone is. I also hope that it's just a center of multidimensional wellness. When you look in the Bible, when it uses the word shalom for peace, it's a multidimensional peace. It's wellness of mind, it's wellness of body, it's wellness spiritually. And my hope is that for anyone certainly working there, but anyone that comes there, that they just feel like they're well cared for in all of those dimensions, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually. I mean, we are not sick in a vacuum with those things not being intertwined. And so my hope is that it would be something where people feel very well cared for, and that it becomes a little wellness hub where walking groups can meet. And maybe there can be a Bible study there once a month to nourish those extra facets beyond just the physical body.
A pillar in the community.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, this has really kind of been open-handed. The Lord has made it abundantly clear this is my next step. I have not had to twist and pry doors open for this. I have taken a step, and there's been an open door, and He has said, step through that. And I have, and then there's the next open door, and He has said, stepped through that. So this has been something very much that I followed His lead for. So how it looks 5-10 years from now, I think I know, or I think how I would like it to look, but I will just continue to walk through the doors that He opens and makes it clear.
I want to shift and talk about your faith, because I know that's central to who you are. When did your relationship with the Lord really begin?
Well, in 1 John it says we love because He first loved us. So I would say that my relationship with the Lord was a response to His initiating love that was there, knitting me together in my mother's womb. And so that relationship was a one-sided relationship for a long time of Him just pursuing and loving me. But as a little girl at the age of 6, I, quote, accepted the Lord into my life, and through a faithful teacher. I don't know if you know the Galloways at all, Jennifer Galloway. She was our little children's church teacher. our faith and our relationship with the Lord, it's constantly an evolving story of different people, different situations that He places in your life that you never graduate from this whole cycle of the veil being removed from your eyes, seeing your sin more clearly, and seeing His grace more abundant. And that's the entirety of the Christian life. We just see ourselves deeper and see His grace more free through the entirety of it. So there's multiple things. College was a time of intense spiritual growth for me. I was involved in a campus ministry called RUF, it's Reformed University Fellowship, and I grew tremendously during my time there. But I'm still a work in progress. I'm still learning. I'm still dying to self, or trying to, I guess, and still learning and growing.
I think we all are, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
You never
that's what
arrive until
life
you're
is
dead.
all about, right?
Yeah.
Is we're all taking it one day at a time.
That's right. That's right. Still learning, always learning.
And being willing to be teachable and learn those things and learn the lessons that God's trying to teach
That's
you,
right.
and trying to be rely on Him for everything. That's something that's been in the last, I've seen in my own life in the last 5 months is that it's necessary for me to rely on God for everything from finances to
Right.
my vehicle cranking in the morning.
Right. Well, here's the illusion. All of us, whether we acknowledge God or not, rely on Him for everything. We either acknowledge it or we don't. And those that don't drive themselves crazy trying to provide for themselves, and they enter into this spin cycle of anxiety, fret, depression, worry, angst, and all of that. I mean, for those of us in Christ, it is a discipline to not enter into that spin cycle. But whether we acknowledge Him or not, we're all reliant on Him. I mean, the fact that the sun is going to rise tomorrow and the earth is going to still be on the same tilt on its axis, and we're not all going to burn up or freeze by moving an inch closer or further to the sun. We're all relying on Him. It's just whether we acknowledge that.
How does your faith show up in your day-to-day work as a provider?
Well, every morning, I start off with the exact same prayer is before my feet hit the bed. And I pray that the Lord would open my eyes to see His beauty around, that I would not be so focused on myself and miss beauty. I pray that He would make my ears sensitive to His Holy Spirit, that I would discern His voice in the midst of the noise. And I pray that He would make my hands skilled to do excellently with whatever He calls me to do that day, and make my feet fitted with the shoes of peace to walk whatever road He wants me to walk, no matter how rocky the terrain is. And those are my prayer. That's my prayer every morning. And so I start my day like that, because to your point earlier, is medicine dangerous? It is. Like, there is a humility that has to accompany this profession, that you have the ability to hurt somebody by either missing something or introducing introducing them to something that would be detrimental or hard or bad for them. And so, you don't want to be paralyzed by fear. You want to be confident in your training and confident in your calling. But there is a humility that comes from the example I use, the kitchen knife that you have in your hand, that it has a tremendous amount of power with it. And so I think there's this daily reliance on the Lord of guide me. And there is definitely times when in the room I'll be thinking we're going to go in this direction, and I come out in the hall and the Holy Spirit will impress on me, like, you need to go back in and look at this, or you need to rethink this. And I've paid very close attention to that, because He's answering my prayers. He's hearing what I prayed that morning and redirecting me.
I know you've been through some hard things personally. You talked about your miscarriage, and then your mother having cancer. How did the Lord carry you through those seasons, and what did He teach you in that?
Well, my seasons of difficulty were hard, but I wouldn't say they were unnatural. Death is a part of life, unfortunately, because of the fall. So I don't feel like they're super unique in losing a baby or losing a mother. I think what may be a little I don't want to say unique, but trying in my situation is the longevity of them. It was, you know, 11-year walk with my mom. And so there's a fatigue that sets in when you're caring for a dying parent. And, you know, there's a fatigue that sets in of doing hard things for a very long time. And so there was definitely spiritual muscle cramps that set in. But the Lord is faithful. You know, when you look back at the story of Israel or the Hebrew people, when they were fed manna in the wilderness, they were taught daily reliance through really a painful means, and that was through the daily gathering of manna. And if they gathered more than a day, you remember what happened? It spoiled. And so that was by design from the Lord to teach them that you will gather what you need for today, and you will eat, and you will be sustained, and you will be fed. And you'll go to bed at night, and your hand will be empty, your baskets will be empty, you'll have nothing in your pantry. And you have to go to bed at night and sleep in peace, so that when you wake up in the morning, then you will be able to gather new manna. And it was very tangible and physical for them, but it was very much a reality for me too. There are some nights that I would go to bed between 4 kids and a sick mother and working and a busy husband, and the manna is gone. I mean, you look at your hand, you're like, I am done. I am spent. There are no more daily mercies. All of them have been used up. And that's okay. I mean, there are some days you just crawl into bed, and my only prayer looked like crawling up into the Father's lap like a little girl sucking my thumb holding a blankie. And I was done for the day. But you wake up the next morning and you have new morning mercies. And our manna, our bread is Him. He gives us Himself. He says, I'm the bread of life. And so you wake up and He gives you Himself, and you do it again that day. And you do it again that day, and you do it. And He never, ever, ever once, when I woke up the next morning, failed to give me what I needed to do to get through that day. Now, when I went to bed that night, I thought I have nothing left for tomorrow. And that was okay. He did not give me 2 days worth that day. So it was a very painful season for multiple reasons, but a season that beat into my forehead. You will be given all you need to for today, and sleep in peace. And He will not fail to fill your hand in the morning. And He did.
Do you feel like going through that kind of pain has given you a new appreciation for what you do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, anytime you walk through something, it deepens your ability to empathize with people. So when a patient comes in and, it may be that the patient in front of me has cancer, I intimately know what that looks like and the challenges that brings, not only for the patient, but for the caregiver in the room. I mean, it's a whole family affair for someone to walk through this. And, when a young lady loses a baby, I know that sting. And so it definitely shapes what you do. If it doesn't, then you're not letting suffering do its work in us. There's purpose in suffering. And if you insulate yourself to being changed by it and allow it to be used in the lives of other people, then you have neutered something that the Lord has specifically allowed in your life to be used for your good, His glory, and the good of His church. And so it's painful to let suffering work its way through all of you. But if you don't, then you're cutting off its purpose, or some of its purposes, I guess.
You've told me that y'all adopted, your youngest is adopted. Mm-hmm. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, so after I had that miscarriage, I had another one a year later. And it's a strange thing to open your heart and your imagination to another child. And then when that's taken away for whatever reason, and I'll never know this side of eternity, it's a bizarre thing, and it's a very unnatural thing to know what to do with all of that affection and love that you already had for that child. You know, for me and all of my pregnancies, the minute you find out you're pregnant, like I'm instantly attached and I'm instantly loving that child. I mean, it's a child from at conception. So, you know, what do you do with that extra measure of love that you are given? And so it was really a call that the Lord had placed on my husband's, probably on my husband first. And he wrestled with it some. And then when he came to me, you know, obviously I told him I need to think through this and pray through it. I think there was a guardedness in my heart of, I don't want to have another heartache again. You know, you start feeling like you need to protect yourself from the Lord because you feel like he has allowed more pain than you want to walk through. So there's this fear of like, what is going to happen with this? But it, you know, it doesn't take very long into looking into the plight of orphans in the world before you realize like, okay, if we have margin, that extra seat at the table, we have margin to fill it with a child that needs a home. So we adopted her from China. She was 4.5 when we adopted her. She's deaf, and it was all 5 of us flew over there to get her.
And what year was this?
2019. And so it was right before COVID. We flew over there, and it was a wonderful experience. She was tiny. She was bald and the size of an 18-month-old at 4.5 years old. She couldn't speak. She couldn't hear. She couldn't see more than 6 inches from her face. And it was just... it's just a sad situation. It's a sad situation, but it was also one of the greatest days of my life. Like you know, I am so thankful as a mom that I got to experience both biological children and adopted children. And had I missed out on either, I would have missed out on something great that I never knew. But there is something so humbling and precious about reaching down and picking up a child that has no clue who you are and pledging yourself to them. I mean, it's the most beautiful picture of our salvation. I mean, there's a reason why God the Father calls our salvation an adoption, because, you know, my story is Caroline's story. It's the exact same story. Mine's spiritual. Hers is very much, you know, her birth story, but she was, you know, born in, I don't know what her situation was with her birth parents, but she was left on the side of the street outside of an orphanage at 5 days old, and was brought into the orphanage, moved around several times, and then we adopted her. And my story is the same. I was in a slum orphanage of sin, and, you know, at great expense to himself, the Lord sought me out and adopted me and purchased me at a great price through his blood. And we sought Caroline out, and at great price financially. You fly over there and you get her, and you go through the legal process, and she gets a new name. She has a new citizenship. You know, when those airplane tires landed in Atlanta, she has a new citizenship. And then the rest of her life is going to be spent learning what it looks like to be a Johnson. And that's the same for us. We were bought at a great price. We have been given a new name. We have been justified. There was a legal transaction that took place for us. And we have a new citizenship and a new name. And the rest of our life is spent learning what it looks like to live within the family that we are already called to be a part of. And so our stories are the same. And she just she has given us a very physical example of what that looks like. If anybody is adopted, it is a big old ball of joy, hard, challenging, terrifying all at once. And it has been the hardest thing we've ever done. It's been the greatest blessing of anything we've ever done, all wrapped up into one tiny little cute girl. So it's been the highest and hardest calling we've ever had.
What's that relationship like, or from, like, because she's not biological, how is that different from the connection you have with your biological children, or is it?
None. Zero. I'd hurt anybody for all four of them with equal vigor. So, I don't know, it may not be this, everybody's different, and it may take some time to bond, and that's no shame on that mama. But thankfully, there was zero diminishment of affection, of maternal instinct. There's no difference at all.
When did that bond begin?
It was beginning pretty firmly once we knew she was ours. I was probably still guarded because I was afraid of another heartache or disappointment. But the minute she walked out of that room and they brought her to us, like, I was toast. It was over for me at that point.
And what was that like for her, do you think?
So I'm sure she was scared. A lot of the other kids that were being received by their adoptive families that same day were terrified. We're white. We look different. We smell different. We sound different, and I'm sure they were terrified. So they were screaming in the background. But when they brought Carolina out to us, she didn't scream. She studied us. And if you ever get a chance to meet her, which I hope you do, she'll smash her nose right up to my nose and literally stare at you. And I was like, what is she doing? She still does it now, so I don't know what that's about. But we had sent some pictures over to her nanny, and they made them into a book. And I think they did a good job of showing her our pictures, because it's almost like she recognized us. But, she never flinched. She never looked back. She was very anxious the next day. We had to go back into that same building to complete the legal paperwork. They give you what they call a harmonious period. You can try her out for a day and then decide if you really want her. So the next day you come before the whoever the legal authority was, and she's writing and she's like, "Are you pleased with the child?" "Yeah, we're pleased with the child." And it's like, "Do you want to keep her?" I'm like, "Yeah, she's coming home with us. We've got a plane ticket over my dead body. Is she staying here? She's coming home with us." So, the next day when we went back to that same building, she was very, very anxious. I think, maybe thinking she was going to go back. But I think it's just a sweet mercy and grace from the Lord. Like, she never looked back and has been a happy child with us from day one. I know that's not everybody's story. We've had our own challenges with some of her medical issues, but thankfully, from an attachment standpoint, she latched on instantly.
What would you say to someone who's potentially considering adoption because maybe they've had challenges getting pregnant, or they want another child and they don't want to have a biological child?
Right.
What would your advice, encouragement be to someone like that?
Oh, that's a good question. So to the couple that cannot physically have biological children, mourn that. It's okay to mourn it. That's a heartache that should be acknowledged as a heartache. So mourn it. But if after that time of mourning you feel the Lord calling you to adopt, rejoice in that and don't feel like it's second best. I think a lot of people feel like it's the default plan or plan B, or a second best option. And I'm here to tell you, I've had both. It is not second best. It is different in terms of the whole experience, but there's a specialness in it that everybody that has only biological children, I look at them, I think you're missing out. Just like probably that mama would feel that something deep down in her missed out, I would say those that don't adopt are missing out too. So mourn it. I don't want to dismiss the pain of it, but move forward in joy, because if you're being called to adopt, there is tremendous sweetness in that. And the Lord builds families. The Lord builds families. My biological children are not mine. They are all the Lord's. And the Lord just chose to build our family in a unique way. And so I would say be excited about it. Move forward in excitement. For those that just feel called to adopt and you already, maybe have biological children, it is not second rate. It's not a second rate child. You will love them and bond with them identical, and you will teach your children compassion. You'll teach your children a very tangible picture of the gospel. We had a lot of people that were very discouraging to us before we adopted, that thought we were messing up our perfect family, which, is a joke. There's no perfect kids or perfect family, but they thought that adoption was a liability of messing up smooth. And so did it wreck smooth? Yeah. Heck yeah. If you adopt a special needs child, it wrecks smooth. But last time I checked, that was not our calling, to easy or smooth. But did it introduce a joy in our home that I cannot fathom would not be there if she wasn't? Absolutely. And did it give my kids the most tangible example of doctrines of the faith that they would never understand otherwise? Absolutely. So when we talk about justification, we can talk about that day when we signed legal paperwork and she became ours. And it's a very tangible concept for them. When we talk about sanctification, when we talk about new citizenship in heaven, like these are very real things that we experienced in real life. And so it has allowed biblical truths to be put on very street level practicality for our kids. So it is by the farthest thing from wrecking our little perfect family. It has made it way more complete. So don't be scared to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, congratulations to y'all for doing that. And
well, thank you.
I'm sure you've thought about where she would be if it wasn't for y'all.
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't for the Lord's initiating love, like we are the piece of pipe that the Lord just chose to use to pour out His love on Caroline. And so when people ask these questions, like, well, about salvation, like, well, what about the people in Africa that can't hear? I think, well, what about the little girl in China that doesn't have an ear, that literally can't hear? He makes a way. He makes a way, and He would have made a way if we would have been disobedient and said no. I'm just thankful we were obedient and we got a front row seat to watch Him lavish His love on Caroline. We're just willing participants in the hands and feet of it. But it's His overwhelming love for Caroline that adopted her.
Can she communicate in sign language or anything?
She speaks, but it's very broken. Only me and our family is really kind of the only ones that can understand it, and it's very kind of needs-based, one-word type stuff. There's very little depth of conversation other than very like, put this here, please. Are you hungry? What do you want, to eat? Those kind of things. And so that's something I definitely hope grows. You just want to grow in the depth of relationship with your children to be able to talk about deeper things. In my being naive, I thought, well, no problem. We'll get her. We'll get some hearing aids, get some speech therapy, and we'll be good to go. And that is the vulnerability of opening yourself up to adoption, specifically special needs adoption, is you don't really have the full picture sometimes. And so there has been some, I hate to even use the word mourning, but there's been some realignment of expectations of what we thought it would look like, and then realizing like this is a different picture than what the Lord we thought He was calling us to. But it's fine. I mean, it's okay. And we're adapting, and she's adapting, and her story's still being written. I mean, she may do just fine and kind of pop out of it one day. She may not, and it may always be home with us, and that's fine too. It'll give me something good to talk about when I'm older instead of AARP benefits.
There you go. Yeah.
I'll be a cooler old lady. I'll have something more fun to do.
She'll keep you on your toes.
She'll keep me on my toes. That's right.
So just in closing here, if somebody listening right now kind of feels like they've been passed around from doctor to doctor and nobody can figure out what's wrong, what would you say to them?
Pray for direction. I'm not suggesting that I'm the end all be all or that I can solve every mystery. Pray for direction, pray for wisdom, pray for the Lord to direct you to the right person, and trust that He will. If you come see me, know that your provider wakes up every morning and I pray over my decisions. I pray over my patients that there would be wisdom exercised there. But if you feel like you've been passed around, challenge who you're seeing and just keep asking why. Why did this come up? Why do I have this? What are my other options? And trust your gut. Like if something's not sitting well, just get another set of eyes to look at it. Get another person's opinion. Get another set of eyes, and you'll have peace when you feel like you're on the right track. But yeah, just pray for wisdom and guidance. I mean, that whole journey with my mom, and there's multiple twists and turns with her, and at each crossroad, I just prayed like, Lord, send us to the right people. I don't know who those are. And He did every single time. It was the right person at that time that we needed. So there's lots of great providers out there. I hope I'm one of many, but there's it's not like everything is crap and John is the only thing good. There's a lot of really, really good folks out there doing a good job. I'm just trying to offer something different that works within my convictions of what I think has been best for my family and what I think probably there's a handful of people that are hungry for.
Where can people find you and Cornerstone Family Wellness?
We are downtown Concord, which is not a metropolis, as you know. We're right next to City Hall. So it's 60 Main Street, right next to City Hall. Our website should be open and up soon. But yeah, we won't be hard to find. Just wander down and we'll get you put on the schedule.
Okay. I might come in there. I don't have a sole provider.
Well, come just to say hey and
yeah.
you to sandwich with
I'll have
me.
to do that. Yeah. I'm healthy. I'm not on any medicines or
Good
anything.
for you.
By the grace of God, I'm
right.
very grateful for that. But I don't have anybody, and I don't trust very many people either.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a me issue, but again, with our conversation about the
Yeah.
institutions, has kind of diminished my trust in a lot of.
Well, you're in construction. I have some suture kits that I keep there. So if you need me, I need to sew you
stop
up.
by and grab one.
Yeah.
I go there right there to the wood yard a lot
Yeah.
and buy from them, so I might have to swing in and grab one.
That's right.
So you never know what's going to
Well,
happen.
I know with them right next door, with all those saws that are running, I'm like, let me just keep some extra suture kits in there.
Might as well.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this. Is there anybody you would like to see me have on the podcast?
Oh, gosh.
You can give me 3 people.
Well, I'm voting for Mike Rowe too. Okay. So I'm voting for Mike Rowe. I have no connections for you. They say, what were your six relationships removed? So I don't know what my web would be that could get you to Mike Rowe. So I'm voting for Mike Rowe too. I don't know. Maybe a kid. Maybe interview a kid.
A kid?
Yeah.
What age?
Maybe a teenager.
Okay.
I love teenagers. They're fun.
What would you like to hear about them or from them?
I would like to hear from them their experience of church, their experience of navigating the strains of culture as a young believer. Because I think all of us who are a little bit older, I still say a little bit older, but all of us who are older tend to think that they're operating in the same world that we operated in, and they're not. Yes, there's always been bullying, but when I was younger, you may have a mean girl that's mean to you and is just running her mouth. Well, now they're sending pictures, they're sending texts, they're sending everything, and things become way more magnified. So they're dealing with stress, same stress, but on different magnification, and they're lonely, and they're trying to navigate way different terrain than what we had to navigate growing up. So I would want to hear from them, really, just to learn from them what we as a church could do to love them well and minister to them well, instead of shoving the same systems down their throat and then fussing because young people don't come to church. I mean, why don't we just shut up and ask them, what would be helpful, and love them in ways that they need to be loved, instead of doing the same programs and fussing that they don't come. So that would be my curiosity.
I love that. That's great. I have a closing tradition where I ask every guest if they're willing to write their favorite verse or a verse that's meant something to them in this Bible I have right here.
Yeah.
So would that be something you're willing to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. In Exodus, the Lord tells them, I will go before you and I will give you rest. That's one of my favorites from those hard seasons of just needing rest and knowing that I have a shepherd going before me, clearing the bush to give me rest. And my second one, can I do two?
Yeah, absolutely.
My second one is in Exodus as well, when Israel is crying out to the Lord. There's 4 verbs in that. It says, he heard, he saw, he remembered his promises, and he knew. And I have memorized those 4 verbs because in my darkest of days and in my hardest of trials, there is a temptation from the enemy to feel alone. And often in my life, the Lord has been very quiet, ironically, in some of those hardest times. And so going back to telling myself he is the same God in Exodus as he is in Concord, Georgia in 2026, and to tell myself that he hears my prayers, he sees my misery at the time, he's remembering all of his promises, and he knows that we have a high priest who doesn't just have conceptual knowledge of what we're going through, but he experientially experienced every heartache we have ever dealt with on this earth. He has experienced in a much deeper magnitude than we ever will. So heartache of loss of a friend or a family member, he experienced that. He gets it. Betrayal, he gets that. Being misunderstood and slandered, he gets that. Doing things, for people that you love and whatever, and seeing them walk away. He understands those things. And so I just memorized those 4 verbs. He hears, he sees, he remembers, and he knows. And so that's another favorite one. I'll put that in there.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much
You're
for joining me today.
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure for me, and I think a lot of people will find value in our conversation, and maybe you'll get some new patients.
Well, the Lord will provide what I need. I hope it's just enough to pay the light bill.
That's right.
But not enough to be overwhelmed, to be honest with you. So, yeah, if I can just pay the light bill and go get a Chick-fil-A milkshake whenever, when I want to every once in a while, then I'll be very satisfied.
So that's your kryptonite.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to hear me on another one say, don't eat sugar. But every once in a while, you just got to pull through Chick-fil-A and get a chocolate milkshake.
That's right. They're really good.
Yeah, I mean,
cherry or no cherry?
Oh, cherry, definitely.
Okay,
yeah, definitely cherry. Yeah. So, you got to break your own rules every once in a while.
Right. Well, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks. You too, Levi.